Hi guys, so another episode up today, and I think it's going to be exciting. Ray's back, and I really enjoyed today because we got to kind of take some lived experience plus a principle that actually helped us a lot. Now, the kind of things that are in the Unshakable course or in the 5-day challenge, or just things you'll find of how you can use a bit of knowledge to apply it practically. And then we show you what are the decisions we have to make and where that, like, what were some of the risks that involved and some of the ways that we went through it. And then fast forwarded 18 months later and gone, okay, now this is where it's ended us up. Because we often hear people saying you should do this and this is how this is going to help. But we never hear, like, how does that end up? And I'm actually quite excited because we kind of given you both the beginning and I'm not going to say the end because, we're both still alive and still going. But it gives you a further down viewpoint of where some of these principles, when applied and stuck to, how they can actually help. Enjoy the episode. Welcome back to the Identity Human podcast with your hosts,
Ray Almond.
Don. I'm glad you put the almond in there because it's really going to get rid of some confusion. Welcome back. It's great to have you here.
It's good to be back.
I'm slightly distracted.
Why?
Well, two things. I really love your top and how it pops. And I don't have my book to make it look like I'm intelligent. And I was thinking of rushing off and getting it, but I'm not going to. So just quickly, because we're a bit of a, we've got an excited crowd. They're like, Ray's back. What's going on?
I was back like 3 weeks ago.
I know, but it felt like an age ago because I think you got people really excited.
Did I?
Yeah, hundreds of people, thousands actually. No, but how's life going for you, Ray? Because obviously I know how life is going and I know how to extract things, but I just want you to give a general, like, how's life going?
Good. I feel like overall, compared to where we were a year ago, even a year and a half ago, where life was just crazy, 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 and we were just starting to change some things to fix that, like a year and a half ago. We're on the other side of that, and it feels like it feels easy, enjoyable, and it's just so far removed from where we were a year and a half ago. Like a year and a half, 2 years ago, it felt like a grind, a hustle. Now it's just like we can breathe. I can breathe, and it's like it was coming this earlier this year. I could see the results of the changes really starting to creep in, and it takes a lot of patience to be a year and a half down the line to see those results.
Yeah.
But we stuck to it, and I feel like our holiday, we took a 3-week holiday to America, like a big, chunky, the longest holiday we've taken. Actually, in like 10
longest
years.
in many ways.
Yes.
Both duration and distance traveled. And I don't mean to America, I mean when we were actually there.
Oh, and also we were properly switched off from work. The first time in like 10 years. And I feel like since then, leading into that holiday, it wasn't that hard prepping for it from like getting work prepped. And coming back from it, it wasn't like we came back to tons. So it just feels like are we in the calm? Are we in the eye of a storm? Or are we on the other side of it where it's like, wow?
Or have we learned to ride the storm and realize that it's both as fun in the eye as in the waves?
Yeah, perhaps.
But you've gone right to it. So, we haven't even done any like...
No, but that's how I feel. I feel like there's a calm. But then weirdly, things just are flowing more easily energetically, and that's like kind of the next season that I feel like I want to enter into, and it's a focus I've been talking to you about this week too. Is like, and Don has, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you may have heard him talk about this whole I was going to say moth versus flame. It's not that. It's the spider web, being the spider versus the fly or the moth. What is yours?
it's quite a key thing. I thought of all the people.
You do the spider's web. I don't know what the other animal is.
Well, that's because you know what the most important thing is. It's the moth. You have to remember the story of the waterfall.
Yes. So it's the spider and the moth, right? And I feel like it's so easy as a business owner, because that's like a big part of my identity, and also a mom to young kids who wants to do so much, to be the moth and just do. And it's also part of building businesses in the early stages. There is a lot of mothing that maybe is required, or maybe that's
we're going to go with that metaphor and just maybe quickly explain.
But I feel like now, even though, put it this way, you could argue, and we'll explain the metaphor in a moment, but you could argue that starting up a business requires a lot of doing. So you are like a moth flutting around, being busy, 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 instead of the spider waiting for things to come to you, right? That's like we're leaning into the analogy here. And maybe that's a limiting belief to just think to yourself, that's the way it has to be when you're starting a business, because I, at the moment, I'm directly responsible day to day in 3 businesses. One where I'm the sole owner, and 2 where I'm 50-50 with someone else.
Solo, and I mean, I'm a director, but I can't be because I'm joking. Yeah.
And those 3 businesses are doing so well. And I am starting up another business. I'm in the startup phase with another business, and I'm not mothing. So there definitely is, I think you can argue that mothing and being busy and doing is required to get a business off the ground. But at the same time, I am in the startup phase of a 4th business, and I'm not mothing, and I'm seeing success.
What does a spider do before it can rest on its web?
It has to build the web. So there is hard work involved.
But it's not mothing. So I'll tell you where it is to help people as you're telling the story, because I understand the analogy of it, is the spider is intentional about how it works.
Yeah.
When it works, where it sets up. It knows that if it does these steps, it's going to get to that point. Whereas a moth, it flaps and it goes with the wind. And sometimes it lands in a bird's beak, and sometimes it lands in the water. Sometimes it lands up against a wall and gets distracted by the lights the humans have put up. But it kind of is just going with wherever the hard work takes it. So it's unintentional.
Yes.
Okay, so you both, like sometimes you're like, maybe I'm just mothing or I'm spidering. And for you, I think you've definitely found a way to spin a web in the right place so that when all the structures are in place, you can sit smack bang in the middle and look around and be like, is this the best place for me? And I think with your 3 businesses and now you starting at the other one, you actually have got a new analogy. The original story of the moth versus spider was me staying in a waterfall, seeing a moth flying. And I was like, oh, be a moth that just tries really hard against the wind at a waterfall, beautiful. And then it went down to the river or to the water and then flew straight into a spider web. And then the spider pops down and eats it. And I was like, oh, don't be the moth, be a spider.
Yes.
Strategically place your structures in a place that you know things are going to come to you.
And
hold on. So that was the back story to it. Now we're adding the layers. Is actually a spider doesn't just set up in one place its whole life. Sets up, does its thing, learns, looks around, goes, that might be a better place. I'm going to go there. Until eventually it does find the one place that it'll rebuild the web the same way every time because it knows it gets success even when it breaks down.
And it learns how to build the web better and better each time. Yeah. And I can definitely see that, like with the 4th business that I'm building at the moment, there's definitely shiny objects that catch my attention, but I know what I'm trying to do. There's a very clear end vision, like down the line. And so I know which cool ideas to bat away or to park for now. And actually it's very, talking about the whole moth versus spider analogy is very in tune with, I was going to say aligned with, but that's, you'll see what aligned with. That whole principle that I've been exploring recently around, I think a lot of us, if you are, what generation are we?
Oh, I don't try and look into it because then you start to label yourself and then you have divisive things.
Okay, whatever we are, our parents are like boomers. Okay. If you are in your 30s and 40s, you probably had parents who are boomers, who were born in the 1950s-ish, your parents, okay? And they definitely got from their parents and their way they were brought up is that if you work hard, you will be successful. So that working hard means success, and that to be successful, you have to work hard. And coming in with that is that idea that if you haven't worked hard, do you deserve the success? Which is an unintended
externally value-based identity.
Yeah. Yes. And so there's this link in a lot of our brains because we were taught by our parents to work hard to be successful. And I've definitely spent the last couple of years realizing that it's not about working harder, but it's about working smarter and putting processes and structures in place. But then I've felt like I've got to that point and I've still felt stuck. And I've been like asking, there's still something holding me back. And it's that whole idea of, it's not just about working harder. And it's also not just about working smarter, because you can get stuck in a loop working smarter because you're constantly like focusing on, I don't know, building the spider web better and better and better. That's like your structures in your favor, but in the same place. And so the next layer is alignment. And that's why I said that word align. And that's like truly leaning into intuition and how it feels, and leaning into what you truly want and not just being driven by what the outside world is telling you. I don't know, like I'm going down a bit of rabbit hole, but I feel like
it's the one thing I've taken bits from. Like, I always take things from different sources of knowledge and models and things. And human design, I've taken that, like, what is, like, when Ray's thinking about, should I do this, should I not? And I'm like, for her one type, it's like, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no.
Yeah.
And just by doing that, it's forcing you to listen actually to what's inside and what your voice is telling you, rather than trying to logic it.
What is crazy, if we're going down so many tangents here, but what I've learned more recently about myself and the hell yes versus the hell no is that it was brought to my attention through podcasts and stuff about, it seems obvious, but really brought to my attention like a year or two ago, how you get decisions that you make with your head and you get decisions you make with your heart. I know it's really obvious, and so it seems crazy I'm saying I only realized that 2 years ago, but I've really been like exploring this idea and how actually in today's society, in today's world we live in, we become over-reliant on our brains and we want to logic through everything and we don't lean into our gut and into our heart and our intuition, and how you need to think about whether you're making a decision from your head or your heart. Because I've known my whole life, I'm like, I must logic this out. I must logic this out. So I've forced the brain decision. Whereas now I've been really paying attention to whether I make decisions from my head or my heart. And often your head becomes fear-based, whereas your heart and your gut is not often,
just a knowing.
It's fear-based, it's a knowing. And so what I find is with that hell yes versus hell no, it's been really interesting. Like, say, for example, there's this conference in America that I wanted to go to in December. And last year, Don and I went together. It was amazingly transformative. But where we are with childcare and our businesses and everything, it just made sense for me to go. And just, it just worked out that way.
Timing.
And I have felt, as a mom, having young kids, being a business owner, like, I really struggle to do stuff just for me. Yes, I've got better at doing that, like doing exercise just for me, or it's like stealing little moments in the day. But to take a few days or like a week to myself is just extreme selfishness.
Terrible. It's so horrible.
But I may have mentioned to Don, but for at least 2 or 3 months, I've been like, I've had this like deep desire to go to this event, and I haven't even communicated it to Don.
Yeah.
I've been like, Melbourne.
I actually thought about this. Go back to your WhatsApps. You would have first messaged me saying, you said, I don't think, or at the beginning, because I was like, I want to go back to BBD. It was like a year ago. And you're like, oh, should we? And then like, there was a time where I was like, actually, I don't think we should go. And it was like a week later. And I remember this clearly. A week later, you started to go, oh, but maybe we should. And I was like, we've had this conversation. Like, it's not happening. And then you were like, you kept going. And I was like, oh, go for it. Like, there's obviously something in you that, like, when I said, fine, we're not going.
Because when we went to the BBD live event last year, afterwards, I was like, I don't feel like a desire to go.
Well, I was like...
And Don was like, we are going. And I'm like, no. Like, and then it was about like 4 or 5 months ago, Don's like, yeah, let's not go. And my whole body was like, what? Like, no, you are going to this event. And I was like, that's so weird. I didn't want to go. He said we're not going. And now I'm like, actually, wow. Like, it was a head decision that I didn't want to go. I was like, what's the point? Like, I couldn't see the logic behind it. But then, like, intuitively, like, my heart was like, no, like, you need to go to this again. And I was like, oh, and then that's why I brought it up to you.
I may or may not have known that you were going to do that if I said, no, fine, let's not go. Because you could see in this like back of your head, you're just like, why are we going to BBD? And I was like, she wants to go.
But it's really interesting as like the hell yes, the hell no. So then I was like, my head said no. Then the moment we made the decision to go, my body was like, no, this not like this needs to happen. And I ignored it for like a few months. I'll mention it to you and ignored it. I just thought if I mentioned it to
died down.
You might come, but it kept bubbling up. And then I just started mentioning it more and more often again because it won't go away. And this was like coming from like a desire to go, not a logic to go. And then you said, yes, go, love. I think you should go by yourself. And I was a little bit like, what? No, like that's what I want. But I'm not like, because when I actually sat down to book it, then my head was back in the game and my head was finding every excuse. Suddenly, my head was a big hell no. But I was like, this is so weird because my head is a hell no, but my heart is a hell yes. And until I feel like I've really opened myself up because I became really aware that like of how we can make decisions from completely different spaces. Like everyone knows you have a heart and you feel it in your heart sometimes and you feel it in your head. But I never realized how much I have been relying on my head decisions and I've been taught from coaches that we listen to not listen to our head so much.
But
And
how do you do
so
that?
because I've become aware of it about a year ago, I've been so shocked in this decision making, how much or how different my head and heart have been on this. And so when you say like my specific human design is like it has to be a hell yes, I have been shocked at how my head and my heart have been on completely different playing fields here.
Now, it's going to be really hard to explain to like you guys listening what Rayanne is actually talking about, because I realize that you can scream from the rooftops to try and get people to feel and realize something that you experience. But until they actually experience it, they're never going to know. So I know if you take me back 6 months and I hear someone talking about a hell yes and a hell no, I'm like, oh, but I've really been leaning into it. I don't have the hell yes, hell no. I've got a different thing. And I've really been following it. Honestly, it's changed so much inside that I can really get on board with what you're saying. And I love the fact that it's helped you identify here versus here. And like even in this whole process is saying you should never make a decision from your head.
Yeah. And I think when you hear these principles, it's about being inquisitive and just feeling in your body, or like this is just one example, head versus heart. But when you hear myself or Don, or gut, but myself or Don talk about things, or you listen to a podcast or book and they talk about things, I know me on my self-development journey, I'm often been like, oh, it's great hearing these principles. It's great listening to these things. But how do I actually apply it? Like, how do I actually, like, I love what that author is saying. I love what that podcast person's saying. But how do I actually live this? And I think, I don't know, it's in those incremental little changes, and you can get so frustrated in the moment because you're not seeing a change, but it's when you look back a year or two, and that kind of loops back to what I was saying, like 18 months ago, even 2 years ago coming up, we put things in place because we knew there had to be a change. And 6 to 12 months ago, I was probably feeling, well, I was like very frustrated because those things hadn't really started to show, but it took 18 months of working on things to really see that change. But it's about being inquisitive. So when you read something or hear something in a podcast, like I suppose the challenge is to journal on it or spend time talking to your partner or to someone about it and just kind of think about it throughout the day and become more aware. I think awareness is step one. And then remind yourself of those principles. It's such subtle changes that add up over time. It's like gymming. You're not going to go to the gym. I know this is an analogy we said often. You're not going to go to the gym and after 6 or 7 sessions, like reading a book, think you're going to have this huge change. Or if you know what I mean? Yeah. You have to, it's like a year or two of gymming to really see that change in your body.
Yeah.
And yeah.
There's good truth out of it. And it brings me or us into the tangent that we were going to talk about tonight, because it is like you talk about practical, and sometimes you need a principle and a practical to see how it plays out, because the principles for me are like these invisible golden threads that if you start to see them, you know that it's how to thread everything together, like a spider's web.
Yeah.
They're right there, but unless you see them, you don't know how to hold on to them and walk on them, and you're the spider. It was a good metaphor. I like it. So we'll quickly introduce the principle of resources responsibility. We've spoken about this before, maybe 20, 30 episodes ago. And I said tonight to Ray, I was like, why don't we talk about how the development's gone, where you currently see resources responsibilities playing out, that we can learn from the past, because there's going to be someone else that's on a journey, and either where we were 2 years ago, a year ago, 6 months ago, where we are, or ahead of us. And this hopefully, like just reflecting very quickly as to like, what's the principle? Where did it play out? And what did we actually do to deal with it? And how did we adapt it over time?
And I just to put a bit of a timeline on it, I clearly remember when we were taught this idea, and so simple, of resources versus responsibility. It was January 2024.
How was it? I don't know. Okay.
That's what I talked about, like about 18 months ago. It was it was January 2024 that Don and I reflected on where we were in life. And we were in a good place.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of just
Surviving.
pressure and surviving. We had businesses that we were growing and kids and
I transitioned from
we had
rugby.
so many responsibilities, so many things we wanted to achieve, and we just didn't see how we were going to do it all. And so we were on holiday in South Africa, and one of the first things we like, when we go back to South Africa, something has to change.
England.
We'll hire, not South Africa, yeah, when we go back to England, something's going to change. And we were like, let's hire an au pair, which felt like wild and out of the box.
Yeah.
And then it was in Jan, so that was in the January. And it was in January that we sat down and we heard about that resources versus responsibilities.
So just to explain resources, responsibilities, I love it because I got really good visuals. If you're a visual learner, resources, responsibilities like a scale in your mind. So it's meant to be between, like, it's like a relational tool, which is great because if it's a relational tool, you can apply it to yourself as an individual if you know how to transfer principles across. So in a relationship where you will hear about this, there is a set amount of responsibilities that you have. So let's say you have one kid, two kids, running a household, cooking dinner, going to work, washing, like anything that requires tasks to be done. Your life to run is a responsibility. Even like the going on dates, and like I'd say responsibility, it's intangible, but it's like that romantic side is a responsibility.
Yeah.
And then you have resources. So resources should sit square with it. And resources can be time, money, people, like access to things, anything that helps you complete those responsibilities. Now,
and I think a lot of people think of only their time is there to do responsibilities. And so it's thinking outside the box with those resources.
Yeah.
Too.
And so quickly to add on to that, so we can move forward, because then I can get stuck into these, is if you increase the amount of responsibilities you have, and that can be kid, job, business,
desire to run a marathon,
take on health challenges, all of them, very
responsibilities can be like things like a goal that you desire to achieve.
Something that takes extra effort to complete.
Yes.
Then your resources, you have to be able to increase at the same time. Resources can be amount of time available, energy you have, mental load, like all of those resources. Like all of that is how much resource do you have to give. So if you think about your ideal state is actually to have more resources than you have responsibilities, because then you can start to give resources to other person. So in a marriage, if I don't have that many responsibilities and I got loads of resource, like I've got it all together, I can give some of that to her, like I can support her better. So this is where I take it into individual. If you as an individual have far more responsibilities than you do resources and like ability to think, time, all that kind of stuff, it creates a performance gap. And that performance gap is in a negative. And that's where, when I retired, it was like, there's the money resource gone, like there's my contract gone, which is a big one. In modern day, that's probably the biggest currency of survival and all that kind of stuff. That increased and
that's part of why we were going through that transition, is because you were about 6 months out of rugby and we were trying to work out like what next.
And responsibilities didn't drop, but resources did.
Yes.
So we had to figure out how. And like the funny thing is now, it's like, okay, but you had less money and you got an au pair. So let's go from there. Like, how do like, if someone's sitting there going like, oh, but if I have to spend money to free up a resource, that's using one resource for another.
Yeah, and we've spoken about this. We did have a long conversation about this. Like that's why you mentioned it, like about 30 episodes ago. And not everyone's in the place or in the mindset to spend money to get their resources
Probably mindset's better. Hey?
Yeah, to get their resources up. But if you actually reflect on it, it's what Don's saying is true. Like we made the decision when we had lost a big source of income to actually increase our spending, because we knew by investing in ourselves in that way that we could increase our earning potential, which we have.
Yeah.
And it's backing yourself. But anyway, I think we're going, like, that's a big step. Not everyone listening to this is necessarily like business or entrepreneurial minded.
Yeah.
And so this, I don't want you to think that this tool only applies to business owners. Or
no, not at all.
It can apply to people who are employed who don't want to take risks to try and improve their source of income. But I think it's a really useful way to look at your life on an individual basis, like you're saying, but also as a couple. And we first used it as a couple, and we were like, because there was a lot of friction. We were both like trying to do our best, and we just couldn't seem to get there. And it was just really pointed out to us by a coach that, have you looked at your life and weighed up resources versus responsibilities? Because just chatting to you guys for a couple of hours, it sounds like you have a heck of a lot of responsibilities. And we were like, oh, so how we fix this?
That was right in front of us the whole
It
time.
just increases our resources. And it was like, like that makes so much sense.
Just to tie it in away from business, actually, is we spent more money on an au pair, which freed up resource for ourselves, which was time, mental capacity, everything, which allowed us to invest in who we were, which then took us to the next level of resource, which for me is like, it's that mental set point that we've got in order to maintain your current level of output. And I think that's really, so like when you start to do your habits, so like gymming or cold showers, morning habits, journaling, all of that is putting time into yourself so that you can be the best version of yourself to others. And I think that's where it really started. So like we started to help each other. We started to really stop thinking like, oh, why are you coming down and gymming for half an hour? We started to go like, why are you not gymming? This is your half an hour. And so it became this switch where we were like, okay, now, we've got the kids are sorted. So now how can I help you? Whereas before it was the old time the other way around.
And to take another view on it, we sat down in that moment, January 24, looked at our resources versus our responsibilities, and made the decision that the only option was to increase our resources. We were not willing to let go of our responsibilities.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that responsibilities includes goals and aspirations you have. So you're going to have those responsibilities that can't change, like your kids, like your work or business.
Or you bought a house, you don't want to sell it.
But you also, and you're including those responsibilities, remember, are things you want to achieve. The marathon you want to run, the exercise you want to do, the going out with your friends one night a week, whatever it is, there's going to be things in there, and there should be things that are for you, that are like additional things. And we made the decision that we didn't want to reduce our responsibilities. It wasn't our vision of our life, was not to reduce those goals and those visions or those things we wanted to achieve. So we had to therefore find a way to increase our resources. But I was going to say, but when we were discussing this episode, I said, I think the key here, the key takeaway is to sit down and have that reflection, have that conversation, even scribble down your scale on a piece of paper and write it out. Because you might realize that actually when you look at it, you're not willing or not able to find a way to increase your resources. Because let's say you're just not, you don't want to, you're risk averse. So you don't want to take the leap of taking an investment in yourself, hoping that it leads to more income.
Or you just struggle to see the value.
You struggle to see the value, or maybe you're in an employed role, or your business has a set amount of income and you don't want to stretch that further. So you might then need to have an honest look and say, I'm feeling a lot of pressure, or my husband, my partner and I are feeling a lot of pressure. We don't want to or don't have the capacity to increase resources. So let's get really honest about our responsibilities and bring those down. But the key is to have this reflection and realize that nothing will change if you change nothing.
If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get the
same result. So don't look at those resources, responsibilities, think, oh, I can't increase my resources, and then just ignore it.
Therefore, there's nothing I can do,
Because in a year's time, you're going to be in the same place. If you are unable or unwilling to increase your resources, then you have to drop your responsibilities.
So Happy Feet, the movie, have you seen it? The penguin can't sing, but it's number 2 or 3. And he's traversing and he's trying to find a different island, and he's got the elephant seal. Okay. And elephant seals never take a step back.
Oh, yes.
Remember, and he meets him on this bridge, and this elephant seal's halfway over, and the bridge is cracking, and Happy Feet's like, you need to take a step back. He's like, I'll never take a step back.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is about like, oh, I'm not going to budge from where I am. This is just how it is. And they're trying to help this elephant seal take a step back.
Yeah.
Till eventually does before the bridge falls down. And then come the end of the movie, all the elephant seals are trying to help out, and he teaches them like taking a step back is okay, because then it allows them to go forward and make a bigger difference. So it's like, it's such a good analogy that like, stop being the bloody elephant seal that thinks you can't move your resources or your responsibilities. Take a step back, just calm down a bit, and that's how you're going to find the headspace to be able to move forward again.
So if you're someone who sits down, does this exercise we're suggesting of looking at your resources versus your responsibilities, and you realize that there is a misalignment, but that you cannot increase your resources any further, but you're not willing to let go of your responsibilities, go and watch Happy Feet number 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And hopefully that can resonate with you, because I think that's such a great analogy.
Thank you. I'm working on it.
A good visual.
Thank you. If you've done that exercise, how do you know that you've got a negative performance gap? I've got an answer, but I'm just interested if you do before I. So, like someone said, "Hey Ray, I think that really resonates," and I've sat down, but I don't know if this is just my mind or if it's actually genuine. Because if I change perspective, I can be super grateful for it and crack on.
I know, and it's hard coming from someone who, I mean, I learned it from my parents, and I've just been like, work harder, work smarter, like to just go, and you can get through this, and just go.
I think you've got a song in there, work harder,
And
work harder.
think, I did that for so many years, just work. I don't know. Like,
I've got an answer.
You can give an answer, but I just feel like it's in your body. If you feel stressed.
But we haven't learned to listen yet. Now you have, so you feel stressed.
But it shows up as anxiety. It shows up
so
as
that's
health.
Yeah, but this is the dark side of resilience. The dark side of resilience is
people like you just crack
on.
Keep going. People just crack on for years, and then they get cancer. Well, I'm like, oh, cancer's extreme, but they get unwell,
burnout. Yeah. So I think, and this is just my thoughts. The answer lies in if you are more often overwhelmed and can't think and are fighting, than you are happy and able to be present. Your resources and responsibilities are stressed. It doesn't mean, honest with yourself. Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you don't walk in and you get grumpy 1 day, 2 days. Like if there's 10 situations, I always use like the case of 10. If you've got 10 scenarios that you are in a week, and 8 of those scenarios, you're grumpy, overwhelmed, can't think, are really on edge, that balance is out of key. But if 2 of them or 3 of them are, you get overwhelmed, you bounce through it, and you're grumpy and you shout and whatever, but you bounce through it, and then the other 7 are fine, that's natural, like you're a human being.
Yes, yeah.
And I'd probably say
it's a good balance.
Yeah. So I just wanted to answer that in case someone was asking the next layer. Quickly moving on, 18 months ahead now from when we first discovered that.
Yeah, January to October, about almost 18 months.
Summarize, like someone's about to go on that journey. Is it worth it? And what's the outcome for them? If they really apply the things we've just spoken about and how we summarize that past situation.
In real simple, raw terms, the start of the journey for us was a feeling of discomfort and frustration, and just feeling like we just can't get on top of things. So if you're at the start of this journey, the reward is like that weight lifted off your shoulders. Like there's so many amazing results that we have because we have the freedom and the money to do a lot of the things we want to do, like go on holidays and, there is
laugh with the kids
and be present, and that's a massive exciting upside. But I think it's just that feeling, if you are in the situation where your responsibilities are more than your resources, you are going to feel that in your body, even if you haven't got that level of awareness where you are practicing being in your body. It's going to be somewhere. You're going to be angry all the time. You're going to be not necessarily, but you might be someone who's angry all the time and snapping.
Silent, whatever your expression.
Not sleeping at night. You might have insomnia. You might have anxiety.
Eating more.
You might be eating more, gaining weight. It's all those typical signs. Signs it's saying is off balance. And the reward, if you say like, what does the journey look like? Why is it worth going on this journey? Because those things don't have to be part of your life.
Well, yeah, like for me, it's like, guys, on the other side of it, you look back and you're like, I'm loving where I am. Like you have the ability to just snap out of things, and you can make decisions, maneuver. You have this freedom to actually really enjoy the experience of life because you're not so overwhelmed with having to make choices just to survive. And I think like I get really excited about where we're at right now. And I know that we're probably at the top end of
we have so much more to learn,
and we might level this out, and then we might then in a month or two be at the bottom end of the next step up, whatever that looks like. But we don't go further down from here. Like if we were to relax and stop, I don't have this fear that our lifestyle would go down, because it's for me, this is our rhythm. I think there's nothing more satisfying than looking back and going, I can't believe I used to do that. I do this now, and this is easy. Whereas that used to be much less than what I was doing was a lot. And I can't explain how good it feels in terms of achievement, integrity, confidence, and everything inside of you.
Do you know, it's like almost just clicked with me as you've been saying that. Is as someone like a recovering, I don't want to, workaholic's not the right
Moth.
word. A recovering moth, or recovering someone who just feels like work harder, do more, just go. Yes, I was putting systems and processes in place, but I'm like, if I just work harder, I'm just going to smash this out. And I feel like a lot of that was learned from my parents, but
Which,
also,
by the way, I meant to say, at their time of life, that approach of work hard
what
was
needed.
necessary.
But I also learned, it was like that, those principles were solidified for me when I worked in corporate and I was in audit firms, and they were just like, just go, learn the keyboard shortcuts, just go, don't breathe. It's like, you're just working at pace. And like, if you work faster, you'll get, you know what I mean? That idea that you can solve it by working faster and harder. And it's so interesting because whenever I've heard people say, and when you said now, when you work on yourself, that you come out on the other side of that and realize that you can do so much more but feel calm. In my head, I've always been like, oh, you just learn more shortcuts, and you still have the same workload, but you're just being better at doing it. So I'm like, I want to get there. But actually, I've realized that you do so much more because, I know this sounds so simple, but you delegate, you do less, but your impact is more. You know what I mean? We're not madly busy. You aren't, when you say you're able to you do that, and you're not like, you're doing the same amount of work, but you're not like, it doesn't feel like a burden. You're not genuinely, truly doing the same amount of work. You manage, like, not managing, you're like overseeing. You're overseeing like that amount of stuff, but you've learned what you don't need to hold on to, what you can find better ways to do things without you having to be involved in all elements of it.
Also, your muscle memory is taken over. So
there is muscle memory.
You're currently training for a half marathon, which you're running on Sunday, and you're running 10K, 12K training runs.
Yeah.
6 months ago, it would have been hard.
Yeah.
Now it's just a 10K run. So
True.
You're still doing the same distance, but your body's so used to it.
And so there is, I get it. I suppose there is an element of like, before, when I wanted to recruit one person, it was a huge thing. Now I can recruit 10 people in a couple of weeks, and that's just
you haven't found a shortcut. You just don't have to think about the route.
I kind of know the decisions that need to be made. I know, and I could just crack on with it. So I know there is a degree of
spider web. So that spider web is like, you know why you have to weave that anchor to this anchor, because then you've got the second layer that comes here, and then you've got to anchor to the middle, because you've done that in the previous level.
Yeah. And the thing is, someone early on in their journey might say, well, that just comes from experience, and how do I leapfrog that experience if I don't want to go on a 3-4 year journey? And that's where you get coaches. That's where you lean into other people's your head on the journey and take some of their frameworks and structures.
Be coachable. Don't, because you can listen to other coaches and listen to books and do all of that stuff, but if inside of you you're not actually doing what they tell you to do, and then you say that they're wrong, you're not being coachable. You love learning and you love going after, and you've read all these books, but there's something in you that's gone, doesn't work. I don't really agree with you. You're not coachable. Because I think people think that if they have to be coachable, they let go of everything they know, and it's not the same. As you can be curious and try things without losing who you are. At the same way that if you hold on to who you are and you don't try things, like, you're in just as bad a place. So.
And what I found cool in business, where I've trusted coaches and like frames people are given, I've done it not necessarily understanding, because I don't have that lived experience, so I don't necessarily truly understand the reason behind why they're saying. But it's so fascinating, because when you look back a couple of years later and you're like, oh, that's why that was all put in place, because it resolves this, and this. So like, coaching can help you leapfrog some of these steps. If you are someone who wants to go faster, you find coaches in all your different areas. I mean, if I think about my journey, and you can think about, like, we're on parallel journeys, and we've done a lot similar, but there's also a lot we've done differently, because like, I run an accounting practice.
We are opposites.
For example. Yeah. I must be on like my 6th or 7th coach. Not like they overlap, and I still listen to some, but there's been like 6 or 7 people that have influenced different areas of my life, and there's so much of what I've learned from them that's enabled me to leap forward when I look back now.
You keep saying leap. I don't think it's leap. I think it's you can step through something quicker because you know what the traps are. So you haven't skipped a lesson, because leaping in, like, it's
Wouldn't
like,
be
oh, I've
out to
skipped
skip a
it.
lesson.
But you've actually, instead of going like, like when you don't know how deep a river is and you put your foot in and you go, like, is it there? And because you don't want to dip down. All they've done is gone like, well, step your foot there, step your foot there. The current's going to come, so just lean a bit to the right. And you're doing like, oh, okay, that's what I have to do there. And so you will
But
eventually.
you still have to be on the boat and feel.
You still have to go and do it. You still have to
Yeah.
get through that experience. But as you just are not stepping and leaning to the left and getting swept over, getting back up and starting back at the same checkpoint. I think that's probably how I see that, what you're trying to explain.
Good analogy.
Thanks.
Okay.
Nailing it. River, spider, and the penguins.
I feel like we've gone on quite a random journey in this episode.
But it's flowed. So if you want me to summarize the journey, it's how are you, what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
We've done a bit of past, entered a principle, talked about that principle as it was and why we did it. And then we've gone, well, this is what it's going to look like. So those are your three main threads for today. If you've got this far, you already know them. But if you skip to the end and you're that kind of person, then you know what's coming up. So thank you very much for joining me. We love having you on.
Oh, thank you.
So I appreciate you. Any last words?
No, it's good. It's always good to have a chat. And if you have enjoyed this episode, do let us know, whether it's a comment on the episode or an Instagram message to Don, because it's always really good to know which episodes hit home. And if there's a particular topic you want us to cover, let us know. I know in the past we've had people reach out and they say, you spoke a bit about this and I would love you to do an episode elaborating on it. We always love that kind of feedback. So if there's something that we spoke about that you're like, you know what, I really fall into that bucket, or I'd really love you to explore that principle more, let us know, because we are more than happy to oblige.
Agreed. Thank you. So thank you very much for watching. And remember, sign off the same way that I always do. Ubuntu, we are who we are through others. I'll work on me for you if you work on you for me. Have a great day.